Hi, and welcome back to whatever this is for my YouTube channel. This video I have wanted to film for a while. I've wanted to talk about this. I've wanted to go into not super detail about like my life and stuff, but I definitely wanted to give an explanation and explain things and kind of like get into what's been going on this past year in like 2020 with the separation from my husband. So if you didn't know, I was married, or I technically still am. It's more of a clerical thing right now, but I was married and we were together for 7 years. We were married for about a year, and last year we decided to separate, and yeah, things just didn't work out. So let me take a step back. So I met my ex-husband back in 2014. At the time I was working at like a froyo place. Strangely enough, I was working at a froyo place and I was like 22, 23, and I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to do with my life. And so I went to a family friend, and the family friend was like, hey, like if you want this job, you can have it, but you need to move to Chicago. And I had like no ties to what I was doing at the time. So I was like, you know what, whatever. I'm gonna move to Chicago, like start a new life. I'm gonna, be on my own. So I moved to Chicago, started my job, and a couple months later, I think I met my ex on OkCupid. So we met on OkCupid, we had our first date, and then one thing led to another and we started dating. I remember at the time, he like told his family, and this might be like TMI, but he told his family that he was going to a Super Bowl party when in fact he was like going on a date with me. So that happened, good times. But over the course of the next like 4 or 5 years, we literally moved back from Chicago to Connecticut. We moved from Connecticut to Chicago, and then in 2020, we were living in Chicago when all of this stuff transpired. So in 2019, my husband was turning 26 and I was turning 29. And so we thought that it was a good idea that we've been together for so long now, we might as well just get married. He was gonna get off of his parents' insurance. He was gonna have an insurance. So like, we've been together for 6 years or so, 5 years, like let's just do it. So we had a small backyard wedding with like family. His family came from Chicago, like everything was good. Not only did we have our wedding, but we also, the week later, moved from the East Coast back to Chicago. So we were doing so much stuff at once. Like we didn't really have a honeymoon. We didn't really do anything like that. And during that time, like we were good, right? Like our relationship was good. I just think that we really like pushed everything really quickly just to get through. So flash forward to 2020, because 2019 we moved, everything was good, we were living in a new place, we got banjo, everything was really nice. But then like the beginning of 2020, the pandemic hit, and as we started getting into the pandemic, I realized that the things that I was concerned about weren't the same things that he was concerned about. And we slowly realized that while we were like best friends, we didn't necessarily love each other like that anymore. So I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, it was like March of, it's been a year. It was at like March or so. We started talking about things, and I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, my husband was like a nurse, so he was taking care of COVID patients, and there was like a couple of times where, like we just really didn't see eye to eye. I was panicking, like going off the deep end, and he wasn't there to support me, but at the same time, like I wasn't fulfilling the things that he wanted me to fulfill as like a partner in marriage and stuff. So, like over the course of the months of the pandemic, it was like, February was fine, we were doing stuff, and then March comes and we're in lockdown, and my husband is working at the hospital, and then he comes home and he's feeling sick, so he's quarantining. So then we started sleeping in separate beds, not because of anything with our relationship, but we started sleeping in separate beds because it was like, what do we, like, am I gonna get sick? Are you gonna get sick? So things were like kind of chaotic then. And then during that time, literally communication and things just started breaking apart because of the pandemic. Like he would go to his parents' house and I didn't feel comfortable going to his parents' house because I didn't want to get them sick. And I think like basically over the course of those months, things just really were really difficult. And we tried really, really hard to talk to each other and like go through all of these things and like make things work. But at the end of the day, it felt like we were just best friends, or we were really good friends, but we weren't like in love with each other anymore. And you know, like now is really easy for me to say these things, but I was a wreck during the spring and summer of 2020. Not only because of COVID, but I was away from my family and I was going through this like almost like an existential crisis of what I wanted to do with my life. Because your husband or your partner is such a big part of your life, you're almost in denial, right? You're like, how do I get through, or like, how do I see myself, right? How do I see myself without this person moving forward in my life? And at that time, I couldn't see it whatsoever. I was in Illinois, separated from my family. With him, we had banjo, like it was our family there. It was, I believe it was May or June 2020. And that was like the final straw where we just decided that, hey, you know what, like I think he left and he went to his parents and he just didn't come back. And that was the point where I just kind of like knew, or I was just a wreck emotionally, because I'm like, this is going to end, like what do I do? So after that, like, you know, I decided that I was actually gonna move out. Like the lease was up anyways. I did a month-to-month lease, so I did an extra month there. I told my parents like I'm gonna move. I got a new place in Connecticut. He got taken off the lease and stuff. This was all in June. Because of the pandemic, I like took his stuff and I brought it to him, and like we were trying to be amicable. And basically at the end of my birthday is in July. So from June into July, I was prepping. My parents came out with like a whole caravan, like my family and stuff. They helped me move. They took all of my stuff, like we took banjo, and we moved back to the East Coast. And I left, you know, like I left my life in Chicago and I left him, and like we basically were like, hey, we're okay knowing that we're separating. That was like the point between June and July of 2020 is when we actually like physically separated. But through the courses of spring in 2020, like right when the pandemic was hitting onward, is when all this stuff started coming up. And we just like, honestly, I think really like when things got really heated with like COVID and all that stuff, we, you know, it's like a test of like, is this what you really want? And I think both of us at the end of the day were like, no. It took me a while to really realize that, and I'll get into it in a little bit, but like, it took me so long to realize like that's not what was best for me. And I don't have any ill will or any ill intention towards him now, but it took me so long just to realize that like this relationship wasn't good for me. It wasn't working in the way that it was then. And now like it is perfectly fine, or I'm working towards, you know, being more focused on myself. And I think that is like a huge thing, right? Like the relationship that I was in, there was no focus on me focusing on myself. I was more focused on them, and they were also focused on them, which they should be. And so I was kind of left in this like who am I, right? At the end of the day. And at the time I was doing TikTok, but I didn't really have as much as I have now with everything that I was trying to do. Once I moved back to Connecticut, where I am living today, you know, my family was super supportive. They really helped me get back on my feet. I started going to therapy. I started talking to someone. I tried dating and stuff, but I still like, it's very difficult. It's not only because like being gay and trying to date in general is difficult, but it's really difficult to move on and like try to get through those feelings. But therapy has helped me so much. If you have the opportunity or the means to do so and you're working through stuff like this, I 100% suggest that you talk to someone. It really has just changed the way my perspective of how I treat myself. Before I went to the therapy and worked on all of my anxiety and depression, I really didn't give myself a lot of worth. I didn't do things for myself. I didn't make myself a priority. But after, I mean, I'm still in therapy, but or I still go to and see someone and talk to them. But after actually like thinking about what I want, I put myself first. I started like basically making myself a priority and being selfish, if you will. And it's helped me so much. And that is one of the things that I like has gotten me through these past months or this past year. That is pretty much what happened with the separation and how quickly it went, you know, over the course of months and stuff. I think it was one of those things where now that I look back at the relationship, I can see why it didn't work out. And it wasn't because either of us was good or bad, because you always like to put it, you know, people always like to think like, oh, they were bad and I was good, and compare yourself. But really what it was that we just weren't compatible in that way for a long-term relationship. And there might have been things along the way that we should have listened to and just stopped and like reevaluated. But I think we kind of were just going through the motions and like, well, this is what we're supposed to do, and like this is what other people want us to do, and that's why we stayed together. And don't get me wrong, we had like amazing times, we had great times, we got banter together, we like went to Walt Disney World, we went to all of these things and like all these life experiences together. And I'll never I don't want to get emotional, but I will never want to take those memories and things away. And even now, like one of the things that I'm dealing with is like, what do I do with the pictures? What do I do with the videos? What do I do with like the scrapbooks and all of those things? And for me, it's like, I can keep those because that's like my life. I don't have to worry about what's going to happen in the future. Like those are the things that I can keep and just not have to throw them away. Like I'm not in high school. I don't have to burn those things and say it's over. The same thing with like my wedding ring. Like I keep that, I can keep that as like a memory of those good times. And I don't have to like, you know, make it a big ordeal. So, you know, now that it's like 2021, we are still working on like the actual divorce papers, not because anything is difficult, but basically the reason why we're trying to work on these papers is because we're both really busy, and with COVID and us being in different states, it's really hard to get them notarized and signed. So honestly, it's just us being lazy. Me personally, the way that I've been dealing with it, like I said, is going through therapy. I've been trying to work on myself, put myself first. I've been trying to just really think about what I want in life and how I want to live, right? So if there's any advice that I can give for those who might be going through the same situation is like, think about the things that you want, because at the end of the day, it's really about you and your goals and being selfish, but being confident and being you. Don't let yourself get pulled into this idea that like you're reliant on that person. If you're not happy, have that discussion, think about it. And if you have to, do the same thing I did and move on. It wasn't easy. It was super hard. I cried the most I've ever cried. I was just emotional. I was up and down. My emotions were all over the place. You know, even to this day, I get those times where I listen to music or I have these certain moments where I'm not sad, but it's definitely like that nostalgia of things that were. But now, like I said, in 2021, I'm looking forward to getting my vaccine, getting back out there and dating someone, you know, like just living life for myself. I kind of have to like reclaim who I am, and whether that means that I'm like doing that within social media with more YouTube videos and TikTok stuff, I think it's really good for me to just have an outlet to like talk to people and meet new people and just be, you know, be free, I guess is a good way to put it. I bet there are a whole bunch of other things that I could talk about on this. I just wanted to go over like the main points of why we separated, what happened during the separation, when, how am I doing now, which is I'm perfectly fine now and I'm working through stuff still. If you're going through the same situation and you want to leave a comment below, let me know if you have any questions. If you are going through a breakup and you want some advice, just leave a comment below and I would be more than happy and glad to respond and give you my interpretation or like how I'm feeling or how I work through these things. So I think that pretty much is it. So I hope you guys kind of now understand what went on with my separation, like what happened. I know that like it's really difficult for other people to understand. They see things online, they don't really know the whole story. I'm more than happy to talk about some of the specific stuff, but a lot of the stuff is private, which is, I don't really want to like give out too much information. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you guys for listening to me ramble on about my life or whatever, how long this video is going to be. I'm definitely gonna post more YouTube videos like this. I like just talking to the camera, or like talking to you guys, listening to your responses, your comments. If you're not subscribed to me already, please, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe. All of my links and stuff to my socials are in the bio. Click the notification bell. I think that means that you get notified when I post new videos, which would be awesome if you are subscribed. And yeah, look forward to making more YouTube videos like this, just talking to you guys. And I will see you in the next video. Okay, thanks, love you, bye.